Bat Force Radio.
Bat Force Radio is rated M for mature, or should that be immature?
Hey guys, Dustin Nguyen.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder.
This is Paul Dini.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
You're listening to Bat Force Radio.
This is Tom King. I write Batman Bitch, and this is Bat Force Radio.
Welcome back to Bat Force Radio, recording live during the weekend of 2019 San Diego Comic-Con. Let's take a quick trip around the round table. We've got the Grumpler in New York.
Whiskey.
Grandpa Batman in Texas.
Howdy.
Bat Force Tom in California.
Howdy ho.
And I'm Robin Cross from Canada, but tonight recording on location from a hotel room in San Diego.
Damn.
We are ready to roll here. So in October of 2017, DC Comics released the first issue of Sean Murphy and Matt Hollingsworth's Batman White Knight. The 8-issue run was an immediate and continued success, as each issue was a top 10 seller, even in the midst of major event titles from both Marvel and DC. Since the book's conclusion, the series was released in a trade paperback and a hardcover as a #1 bestseller. Amidst the continued popularity, the expected sequel was announced, and we learned that the introduction of Azrael would be a large part in Curse of the White Knight. On Wednesday, July 24th, issue 1 will finally hit the shelves, and returning to the show to take us through everything to expect is Mr. Sean Murphy.
Are you guys my exclusive? This is my exclusive podcast.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. What do you think?
You're not allowed to go anywhere else, as I am.
I know. What did you do right to earn my loyalty? I don't remember.
we buy all your original art for starters.
Oh yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
keep those pages warm for me, Sean. That Batman page.
Yeah. Plus, I bought you guys hookers and got you drunk. So there's all that.
We appreciate that more than.
I gotta tell you, sending a hooker to Canada, not cheap.
But it was worth it, I gotta say.
Yeah.
It's so clean up there; they don't have their own.
You got health care, so you bettered your life.
Who said I sent a she?
That was a secret.
Oh man, that's awesome. How you guys doing? Thank you so much. I appreciate this.
Awesome. We just saw a tweet from you that your new ride arrived. So it looks like good for you.
Yeah, I've been all day. There's no air conditioning, so I've been driving around 95-degree humidity in a Datsun with vinyl seats. But it's been 2.5 years of waiting, so I smell like shit right now. You guys luckily can't see that.
I didn't go driving, and I smell like shit though. So.
Man,
well,
that is a beauty.
The con all weekend.
That's great. I didn't know you guys. How many of you were at the show?
There was 2 of us.
3 total.
Yeah,
legends. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 3. Robin and I. Oh, I was telling the guys I'm skipping the 30th anniversary Batman '89 panel to be recording with you.
What, dude?
Yeah, man.
It's not too late to change your mind. It's okay.
They'll broadcast it somewhere. I figured because that's the past, but you're the future, my friend.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I remember last time you guys said that my book was the only one that collectively got all of your seals of approval.
Very hard.
It did. Yeah,
Hoping
it did.
The sequel is that way too, and if it's not true, then don't tell me.
Well, what we can say is that collectively we are, after reading the first issue, we are really excited about this run.
Cool.
But before we even get into that, what we usually do is ask, how's life been since the last time we talked to you? Like, how's life, and working on this new one? Is it is it more of like working grinds, or are you getting more comfortable running your own drawing/writing series, or what's?
Well, I've been building a studio in my backyard. I've been converting a carriage house into a gym/garage/studio. So I'm in it now. It's 2 months ago. It was finally finished. So I have like a proper working environment now, which is really helpful. Yeah, I think with the sequel, the thing that I really wanted to do was just do a very different type of story, like not get so political so much and sort of delve into the past, talk about how Gotham started in my universe and how far the Waynes go back, how far Joker and Azrael might go back, that kind of thing. To me, it feels more like a traditional comic book story, less more of like a criticism of Batman and Gotham, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It definitely feels right off the gate with that first issue that tone's totally different, gothic feel with like that old school scene. So it's shifting gears, like you say, and immediately kind of taking you back to like a little history.
Yeah, thanks, man. My thinking was the first one was it was kind of a critique on Gotham now. So because I got greenlit for a sequel, I was like, well, let's get to the past. And then if I get a volume 3, I'll probably dive into Batman Beyond and get into the future.
Ooh.
I like that you're writing basically 2 stories at once, so it's not always so linear.
Oh yeah, that's just sort of the trick. I don't know. I don't know why. I always start off with a very linear type of story in my mind, and then everything just gets complicated at some point. And yeah, I don't know. It's hard to keep track of like all the plates that I'm trying to spin.
Now you I know you have experience writing prior to writing your own Batman run, and then I think if I remember correctly, you said you've read a lot of books and did a lot of research in terms of the craft of writing prior to going into it. With this one, do you still practice that, or are you just fitting and feeling more comfortable in terms of how you're developing your stories and changing them?
My background is self-taught, sort of like screenplays. So 90-minute movie, beginning, middle, end, 3-act structure, pretty basic stuff. I didn't really stay as strict this time. I just felt more comfortable sort of feeling it out as I went ahead. But I definitely wanted to make each issue contained, and that like by the end of issue 1, who the main antagonist is, what the story is basically about, where it's going. Everyone important is generally introduced. Like I don't like it when you read an issue 1 and you feel like, okay, I don't really know what to think yet. I guess I'm going to have to buy issue 2. So I wanted people to get this one and go, oh, it's all kind of here. I know where it's going. I feel like I've got a complete package. Even though I have 7 more to go, I feel like I get it already. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a great little jump. I mean, yeah, it could be a good jumping on point. It could be something great continuously. What has been kind of like the response from fans between the last one and working its way up to this one? Like, what have you seen people kind of saying online and stuff?
Most people like it. The biggest criticism I get is people don't think Gotham would ever forgive the Joker. They don't believe Joker would ever get off of all the murders he created. Like, how could you never prove the Joker killed anybody? And they're really hung up on like continuity, basically. And my response to that is, well, yeah, I'm asking you to imagine a version of Joker that's never really been caught except by Batman, and there's no real evidence for it. And that's like the biggest thing I'm sort of asking you to accept. And if a reader can't accept that, then they're probably not going to get into the rest of the story,
Well,
yeah.
But I'm definitely running into like old-time Batman readers who have a hard time imagining anything different, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah.
So their criticism is that the city can never forgive Joker for ruining certain things, but you should be like, well, have you seen who our president is at the moment?
People are willing to look past a lot of shit, so I don't
exactly.
think that's a problem.
Well, not comic book fans.
Most people are pretty reasonable and open, and comics are just a hobby. They don't take it so seriously. But every now and then I get like 1 out of 200 that really is like, this isn't Batman, this isn't Joker, this isn't Gotham, and that's cool. I mean, I get those people. Those are the Wednesday Warriors that we need them. But yeah,
since the conclusion of the first White Knight and the mass response to it, there've been people putting out like custom action figures and all sorts of requests for merch. What's your take on that? I mean,
I love it. That's awesome. Anything, if I can forward all of it to DC and just keep nudging them, like, here, make some figures, make a die cast. I mean, I feel like that stuff's probably coming. They seem to get around to looking at the hits and go, okay, what can we do for a movie in 2 years? What do we have for action figures? Like, let's, they generally get around to everything. So I'm pretty sure that stuff's coming, even though I haven't heard too much of it lately, but that seems to be how it works,
You got your own black and white statue like almost immediately.
Yeah, that is true. That turnaround time has to be a record, because no, look how long it took Norm Brayfogle to get one, bro. Like,
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, normally it's like 18 months on those, I think, is the lead time. Yeah.
I was actually just talking to Jim Fletcher at the con yesterday from DC Collectibles, and we talked about the fact that they've just unveiled the 100th statue, and it's Todd McFarlane, and by the time Todd McFarlane gets one, you already have 3.
Yeah, take that, Todd, Mr. Baseball.
I don't understand the big deal. I mean, I made plenty opportunity to get characters and figures in my statues, but whatever.
Oh man, I missed the voices, you guys. I really do appreciate this.
Last
time I asked you for Todd McFarlane, for Rob Liefeld voice, did you guys work on that? Damn it!
No, I gotta work on it. I'll work on it.
He's there all weekend. Go
Todd.
fucking talk to him.
We got Dan. I forget who else we got.
Yeah, Dan's I'm always around. I'm always behind a chair, so just kind of keeping an eye out on everything. But I need to get you back to work. I'm glad you got that studio so you can get some more writing and reading done over there.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah. So we finally got the hardcover of Batman White Knight, and from what I understand, a deluxe hardcover was recently solicited, right, Robin?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. And from my, word on the street, I overhear from my comic book shop and everyone that people just keep rebuying it. That everybody that bought the trade is now buying the hardcover. Now they're like, I'm gonna get the deluxe, and they're hoping for a good turnaround time for an absolute because they feel like it's definitely destined for that and whatnot. So
yeah, I'm pushing that too. I got all my raw images saved, so if they wanted to put out like an unadjusted, like you can see all the eraser marks and smudges, they've got that stuff. So I mean, I don't know what the future is of absolute. I feel like if it makes money, they'll do it. So here's hoping.
I'm hoping you're really spearheading something that is getting a lot of creatives thinking in terms of putting in that work and that research and the time to create something, to learn how to balance art and writing or whatever it may be. Because we had Lee Bermejo on 2 episodes ago, and he was talking about how he absolutely loves what you're doing over and thinks that it's a really good thing for Black Label.
Lee and I are good buddies. We met in France, and we clicked right away. And we both feel like we're 2 people who ended up in comics who don't feel like we should have ended up in comics.
Exactly. I've always called you 2 like the rock stars of DC for some reason.
Maybe Lee. Lee is for sure.
you guys have, you definitely have your personalities. I could see meshing very well, and your and the way you just the way you focus on your work. Like you don't really cut corners. You don't you don't compromise, I should say. I think that's really important.
Yeah, Lee and I, we're probably, if he was here, I think he would agree. We're probably equally hot-headed. We don't like people screwing around with us. We're good if you let us do a thing and leave us alone. It's he's a really good dude, man. I haven't seen him for a while. I miss him. But yeah, I mean, he and I were comparing notes when Black Label was they shifted the focus on this is going to be adult comics, this is going to be HBO, it's going to be violent, it's going to be this, it's going to be that, and then DC changed their mind, and it wasn't clear what they really wanted us to do. So Lee and I were sort of looking at each other like, did they talk to you? Like, are we allowed to say swears anymore? I mean, obviously nudity is out. Like, what the hell? And he's like, oh man, you have no idea. I had to redraw stuff, and I got off easy because I generally wrote my book to be PG-13. Maybe a few swears here and there, but I didn't do what Lee did. I didn't have to go and overhaul pages, so he got the worst of it, I'd say. But, we both understand Batman isn't ours. It would have been cool to do an adult book, but, we're not the gatekeepers on Batman. It is what it is. We both got, well paid for it, so what are you going to do?
Yeah, not just creatives like you and him are the people that I think pushed the medium forward. I was discussing this with him as well in terms of, like you look at like European comics, which I think you're really well read in as well. And it's
both of us.
It's just the way I wish our side of the house would lean towards more. And I know the big 2 need to sell underwear and stuff like that, but I like Black Label was just this breath of fresh air. It was this new sense of optimism, like, oh, we could have mature comics dealing with these characters that have been around for 80 years because, in the real world, this is the kind of stuff that would happen. This kind of imagery or this language would take place in the the stories would feel more organic. And like Lee said, like he didn't even, there was nobody to throw under the bus. It was just bad timing. It was just bad timing. So
yeah, it was, and we all know that. And I think for a while Lee and I felt like he and I were alone on this cruise ship called Black Label, and we were headed out to sea, and there was no one steering the ship, no one knowing what to do or say about it, and everyone was talking about Black Label, but no one wanted to claim it because you didn't want to get fired. So my goal has been
then you got joined by Scott, Greg, and Frank. So
yeah, thank God. Like Superman Year One came out, Scott's book came out, because it was for a while. It was just me and Lee holding hands in a dinghy, like hoping we didn't flip over. And our goal was to like, I want to sell books, I want to do well, but I don't want to do so well and get so much attention that I piss off the suits for some reason, because who knows what triggers them sometimes, And I think it's all sorted out now. I've always thought as Black Label as like platinum Elseworlds, so to speak,
Yeah.
Like, it's sort of like a movie in a way where if you've seen a movie or a game, you don't have to know a whole lot of Batman history. You can just generally pick up a book, give it to your mom, and she can generally understand it. I think that's, for me anyway, that's kind of where it's at.
Yeah, because continuity, the constraints that come with it, it does limit storytelling at this point, because it's just so congested, and you have to, so.
To answer your question before, you're talking about writers and artists, like why don't more artists write? Why don't we see more like single vision type books? And I think I would love it if artists would write more. I would love it if they had more ideas and had the, I guess the bravery and had the schedule and the bandwidth to sort of do their own thing. But, I've been pushing that narrative for like 10 years, and artists, most of them just don't want that. Like they say they do. They have a story like, oh yeah, I got an idea, a guy with a gun who won't take no for an answer or whatever, It's like generally Sin City kind of in a lot of ways, but none of them really bother to research how to write or will say no to work, turn work down just to write a script.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just not in the cards for a lot of people. So I would love if we had a ton of successful Black Labels too, but I don't know how many talented people there are that are wired that way,
That's exactly what I thought. It's pretty evident in the writing. I think it's one of two things. I think it's either ill prepared or overwhelmed. One of the two when they're going into something like this, because you think everyone, a lot of people think they have this perfect great story, but when it really comes time to break it down and structure it and have the landing and everything, and then you have to draw it. It definitely takes experience and preparation and determination. You got to want to do it as well.
That's. Totally. And, so the difference for me is, just to take Star Wars as an example, everyone in comics has an opinion on Star Wars. But if you're really meant to be a writer, you don't only have an opinion. You have a list of things you would fix, and you can explain why you would fix it. And I think a lot of artists, they think they can write because they've absorbed it through osmosis or something. Like because they have opinions on Star Wars or whatever, they think that they could write if they needed to. But that's not really enough. Like you're looking at Star Wars as a fan, not as a professional. And a professional would look at those scripts and figure out, how would I make it different? And I'm not criticizing Star Wars one way or the other. It's just that's sort of the different mindsets. Like when I talk to Scott Snyder, he can tell me about Star Wars and how he would fix it. If I talk to an artist about Star Wars, he's usually just complaining about Star Wars, Now,
I want to backtrack a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Obviously, you had very successful books in the past, but given the level of the success of White Knight, it did really well, obviously. Top 10 sales for every issue, most of the issues going through multiple printings, and then the trade paperback, the hardcover. Does that level of success, does that change life for you?
Yeah. When I go into comic book shops now, I get recognized more quickly. People will see like a tattoo on my hand or something, and you can tell like they're not sure if it's me, and then they're going to come over and say something. It's great. I mean, I love it, and I'll usually try to break the ice first. But I went from being like comfortably like embraced by artists and sort of a cult hit to a mainstream hit in the last year, and it's been great. I mean, I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm just happy that people like the book, honestly, because when you hear an artist that's going to strike out and start writing his own stuff, it's always like, yeah, okay, but eventually you're going to get back to working with a real writer, right? And my goal with this was to like really plant the flag and go, no, I sincerely want to be a writer. I take writing seriously. I don't have to be the best writer, but I do intend on like running with this football all the way down the field, and I'm not going to let any of you stop me. I wish I could travel more and do more shows, and I'm just so busy trying to get these things out on time. Like I don't want to start basking in this notoriety. I really want to stay focused on the work and try not to let it go to my head, I guess. I don't know.
Well, you do make your deadlines. We spoke about that last time. You were like, it's not much of a secret. Just make your fucking deadlines.
Oh, yeah.
The Curse of the White Knight's hitting the shelves this week, and it's really exciting. So while we wrap up this segment, what would you like to tell potential readers about The Curse of the White Knight?
So in White Knight, Joker unhinged Batman by completely turning Gotham against him and showing how corrupt the idea of Batman may or may not be. And as devastating as that was, in Curse, Joker comes back again and shows Batman and Bruce Wayne, not only is what you did problematic, the Waynes have been doing problematic things for Gotham for centuries. Like, this didn't start with you and me. This started 300 years ago, in a way. And there's this curse that's in Gotham. And the reason that Gotham is always, filled with crime isn't necessarily because this is any other city. There's something weird going on here, and it has everything to do with your bloodline and what you did 300 years ago.
Oh, shit.
I just wanted to draw a fiery sword, if I'm honest.
Now, were you a big fan of the Asbat in Nightfall?
I was. I haven't read it for a long time, but the images, the work that like Quesada did and Kevin Nolan, there's a whole group of people I'm probably going to forget here. But I remember the really amazing covers, the 90s fabulousness of all of it, the pouches, the Wolverine style armor. I don't know what you call it. I remember it being really, really awesome. And the reason I chose Azrael, I had actually planned to create a new character because, like Neil Adams created Ra's al Ghul, part of making your mark on Batman is making like an unforgettable villain or something. So I really wanted to try that. And I came up with an idea for a villain that was part of a cult that'd been around for centuries. He had a sword. And the more I started laying it out, the more it appeared to me I'm just doing Azrael. So I thought, man, it's been about 20 years since Azrael came out. Like, maybe it's time to reinvent him. Maybe he's like sort of forgotten enough that it's time to get him back to basics and like White Knight him a bit, in my way. So I called DC and I was like, thinking about using Azrael. What are you guys doing with Azrael these days? And they're like, all right, let me check. So they take a week, they get back to me. They're like, we're sending Azrael into space. So I'm like, okay, so you're obviously not doing anything with Azrael. And they're like, I don't really know. Maybe we're not sure. And I go, by the way, how does a fire sword work with no oxygen? And they're like, I don't know. So I'm like, great, time to reinvent him. So I'm like, good. So it seems like you guys aren't, they have other things they're doing. I don't know where he was or who was writing it, but they seem happy to let me go at it. I think they were surprised that I kind of picked him instead of somebody else. But yeah, I mean, I love it, man, and especially getting back into this like the nod to the 90s and stuff. I just think that stuff's really cool. And as I reread a lot of the Nightfall stuff, I was reminded why I liked it so much. But I also saw a lot of opportunity for things that they didn't do. So I'm hoping to sort of push it further than they did back in the day.
Oh, that's cool that you went back to Nightfall before you went into this.
Oh, you got it. Yeah, you got to go back to the source.
Man, I love. What was it? Nightfall, Nights. I forgot what the middle one was called. Was Night's End the middle one? Night Quest was the middle one.
Yeah.
Because that was just a long run of Azrael going out at night on patrol, and there was just such a stillness in the air when you read those comics, when him by himself and going nuts, and I was like, "Fuck, man, this character's a lot of depth." When I heard you were taking on this character for the new one, I was very interested because he is a fan favorite. So that is pretty cool how that all came to be, and like you inquiring about him and going into space, like. Yeah, they really. Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure it works in space. I don't know. Maybe there's like a glass around the sword so it can light up. And I don't know how it works. Or just give up a lightsaber. Yeah.
Hey everyone, make sure to tune back into Bat Force Radio here on Wednesday, July 24th, when The Curse of the White Knight #1 hits the stands, and we continue our conversation with Sean Murphy with spoilers and everything about this great first issue. All right, see you then. Bat Force Radio on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Spotify.
Hey Gotham dwellers.
Make sure to stop everything right now and subscribe to Bat Force Radio. We can be found on iTunes and SoundCloud. Don't miss out. Guaranteed to satisfy all of your Batman and DC needs.